Today I'm going to be telling everybody about the seals of Saturn that are inside the tarot. And a lot of people don't know it, but today it'll be real simple to find it and pretty uh, obvious too, you know. And I'll show you exactly all the steps to get there. But it's pretty profound, and it gets you really big, like awake you and see like how divine that the rider-waite tarot deck really is, and just this having the seal in there so many times is pretty profound. And it adds like why the seal of Saturn is in there. But Saturn is the god of the planets, and it's kind of like the god of the tarot. And so you have the seal inside Saturn, the seal in all like the magic, goodness, and beneficial aspects of Saturn. And then at the same time, it's a shield that blocks out all the negative stuff from Saturn, like judgments, karma, timing restraints, and frustrations, annoyances. And so the seal of Saturn, I'll show you in just a second where it comes from and how you create it. But once you do get it created, it forms like these two X's that connect together. It looks like almost like two V's overlapping. So it's kind of like XX and a line in the middle. And so it looks kind of like a diamond in the middle, and that diamond can be like an eye. And since Saturn connects to the third eye chakra, because Saturn is Bina, the third sphere on the Kabbalah tree of life, and it's associated with the third eye chakra and Saturn. So when you have this eye diamond, it's like a third eye. And then you tap into this portal where you tap into the astral world and envision your desires, and then you can draw it down and manifest it and create it into the real world. And you create something out of nothing. So let me show you. So let me share my screen with you. It comes from these planetary squares. Every single planet has a magic square, or also known as a kamiya. And here it is. These magic squares, they set the energy of that planet in motion. And then the seal kind of brings that motion to a halt, or like seals it in, so you can contain it and use it for your own purposes or manifestations, or even protection, something like that. See how all the 9 planets, or 7 planets, they all have magic squares. Here's Saturn's at the bottom. It's a 3x3 square. And since Saturn on the Kabbalah tree of life connects to the third sphere, that's why it's a 3x3 square. Just like Jupiter connects to Hesed, which is the 4th sphere on the Kabbalah tree of life, that's why it's a 4x4 square, and so forth and so on for every single one of the planets. Like the sun connects to Tiferet, which is the 6th sphere. That's why it's a 6x6 numbered. So all the numbers inside the magic square or kamiya, they always equal a certain huge sum number of all the numbers inside of it accumulated to like one big number. And they're all different numbers, but Saturn specifically is the number 45. And 45 is a really big number inside the rider-waite tarot. And they always connect to Saturn and to Jehovah, or God. And I'll explain it in just a sec. So just to let you know, every single planet has these magic squares. And this is Saturn's a 3x3 one. And this is the sigil of Saturn. And these are like alchemical symbols. And then also the planetary symbols for the planets. So this is the magic square of Saturn. And then it's just plain on the left. And on the right one, you'll see how you form the seal or the sigil. You see how the number is 3x3, how all the rows going left to right, up and down, even diagonal, they all add up to 15. And then 15 times the 3 is 45. And also, if you add all the numbers together, it equals 45. So 45 is the big number for Saturn. And then you get the seal by following the numbers. So it's like 1 to the 2, to the 3, to the 4, to the 5, to the 6, to the 7, to the 8, to the 9, and then eventually end up with a seal on the far right. And this is kind of like an ugly version of it, but if you break it down, it'd be just the 2 X's touching each other, or like a 2 V's overlapping each other with a line right down the middle. And that's the seal of Saturn. And it comes from the magic planetary square. Speaking of 45, 45 is the numerical value of Jehovah. Whenever you break it down, all the 4 letters of the tetragrammaton, and you spell out each of the letters in word form, because the tetragrammaton is 4 letters that equal 26. But if you write it all down, it's like the yod, so like the Y-O-D, and then Vav, or Hey, Vav, Hey, and then you have like all the letters that spell out those words of the letters, they all accumulate to 45. And then also the Hebrew word for man or mankind is Adam, and Adam has a numerical value of 45. So it's like God created man in his own image, and that's why they're both 45. And also, man can tap into his third eye consciousness and create and manifest desires, just like God can create something out of nothing. And we have that same power, that same divine spark within us. And the tarot helps you connect to that. And whether you know about the seals or not, the tarot always has it inside there. So, like Saturn's the planet of time and the lord of time. And whenever you want something and you plant a seed, sometimes it takes a long time for that seed to like grow into the tree or seed to fruition. But with the tarot, you can make desires manifested a lot faster because you're blocking and shielding away that bad timing influence and issues and judgments and restrictions all away from Saturn. And you're sealing in the magical essence. Then, just knowing all of that, like the 3x3 square, then we go to the 10 of Pentacles card. So the 10 of Pentacles card is a map key of the entire tarot, like the Rider-Waite Tarot. So if you know how to read this card, you can read like every single one of the cards in the Rider-Waite Smith deck, because the whole deck and tarot deck is based on the Kabbalah tree of life. And if you understand the Kabbalah tree of life, reading the tarot cards is pretty easy. And so, see how the 10 spheres are shaped exactly like a Kabbalah tree of life? There's a Kabbalah tree of life. It has 3 columns. So it's like the right, the left, and the middle column. And the 10 spheres in their certain shapes and positions. And then you get the 10 of Pentacles card. And it lines up perfect with this. See? And so, yeah, this is like a map key of the tarot. So every single one of these pentacles, they correspond to the spheres on the tree. And then they also correspond to like the 1 through 10 of the minor arcana. So that all being said, the last one at the bottom, number 9, connects to Yesod, which is ruled by the moon, which will correspond to this sphere to the right, where the old man is petting the dog's head, and then his hand touches that 9th sphere, Yesod, which is ruled by the moon. And the moon always unveils secrets that are hidden in plain sight. And so the secret here is that there's a third dog right below the guy's hand, right next to this white dog that's next to this 10th pentacle or sphere. And see how the dog has a little nose touching that pentacle, and then his little tail is sticking up on the bottom, and he looks camouflaged with the man's dress or apron, cloak. And so that little dog, now that you see him, you can't unsee him. And then on the back of that dog's head is a red square that's a 3x3 square, which is the magic square of Saturn. And so it lets you know that there's a hidden seal of Saturn in the card, because Yesod reveals what's hiding in plain sight, or the light reveals what's in the darkness. And so to form the seal, you would know that the diamond in the middle is like an eye. And so if you look at this guy's head in the middle, the back of his head, it looks like an eye. You see when I zoom in, see the guy's back of the head in the middle? His hair looks like an eye, if you can tell. So, that being said, a seal is when you connect these spheres from the top one all the way down to where this guy's head is, and then down where the woman's hand is, and that's like the top V. And then the bottom V will go where the Yesod is, where the guy's petting the dog, up to the 5th one right here, and then up to the 4th one. And then the line that goes in the middle of the Seal of Saturn will go right across the top of the walls in the back of the card, which actually goes right through the checkered line on the left, or this checkered wall. And then these correspond to planets of the Kabbalah tree of life that go with the Seal of Solomon or Star of David. And that's used in a lot of magical practices in like Rosicrucianism and occult and esoteric circles. I'll show you more pictures. All right, this is The Star of David, or also known as the Seal of Solomon, is inside the Kabbalah tree life, and it connects to certain planets that correspond exactly to the Ten of Pentacles card. And I'll show you just a second after I show you the seal. All right, here's the Seal of Saturn. You see how it has double X's or the two V's overlapping each other, which is very, very exactly the same as the Freemason symbol when you have the compass and the square. And a lot of times that compass and the square has an all-seeing eye right in the middle. Okay. And then the Kabbalah tree life, which corresponds with the Ten of Pentacles card, has that Star of David in it, and it touches these certain planets that are exactly the same planets on the Ten of Pentacles. And the sphere in the middle is in the middle of the Ten of Pentacles card. And see how Saturn is like right in the middle when it really should be the third. But the top three are like the godhead of the Kabbalah tree of life, and they're basically invisible. But the third one, Saturn, Bina, it brings it down into the manifest, into reality. It like solidifies the light or solidifies your imagination. So that's why it says Saturn here, because Saturn's the one that brings it down into reality. And Saturn's kind of the god of the tarot. And then we bring it down into the bottom one, the 10th, which is Mahut. And Mahut is the material plane in the third dimensional reality that we all exist in. So you bring, and everything above it's in the astral or in the imagination or the subconscious. And you bring it down into the manifest. Here it is. So it has the compass and the square, and then like the all-seeing eye or the eye of providence right there in the middle. And it's the seal of Saturn, and Saturn connects to the third eye chakra. So that's why it always has the all-seeing eye, the third eye. And the tarot always has these seals within it. So it always taps you into that third eye consciousness and intuition and problem-solving skills and godly insights. I found this one online, but it's a very common occult symbol. When it always connects with these planets that are combined, like corresponding to the Kabbalah tree of life. And the Ten of Pentacles does the same thing, the same planets. And just one more time, this is the same thing, but the Rosicrucian symbolism and color scheme. Once I get it clicked open, the same thing. You have the sun in the middle, and then Jupiter on the right, Mars on the left, and Mercury, Venus at the right bottom. The very bottom is the moon, and the top is Saturn. And it has the same colors that correspond to the Kabbalah tree of life's colors as well. Now, here's three cards that have the seal of Saturn on them. So it's the Ten of Pentacles, and then the Devil card has it, and then also the Hierophant. If you count the pentacles on the Ten of Pentacles, say this is the first sphere, and then down here, where it's like all the connecting points of the sigil or seal. If you add the number of the pentacle, then it all adds up to 45. So there's number 1, number 4, number 5, there's 8, 7, 9, which all adds up to 34. But there's an 11th hidden sphere that's always there, just the unseen. It's called dot. It means knowledge. And it's kind of like the seed level of the tree that holds all the DNA code. Or if you rearrange the anagram of dot, it spells data. So it holds all the data of the tree. And it corresponds to the Fool card. And the Fool is kind of invisible, you know? Kind of like when we start a new adventure or a new chapter, we always feel like we aren't respected and no one sees us quite yet, you know? We're invisible. And so he's the 11th. So 11 plus the 34 is 45. So it just lets you know that it's a correct seal because it came from that magic square on the dog's head, which is a 3x3 square of Saturn that equals 45. And then Saturn has two spirits of the planet. All planets do. Like all the planetary magic squares make a sigil for the planet, and those planets always have two spirits. So the spirit of Saturn is Agael, and then also Zazel. And both of those names have numerical values in Hebrew gematria of 45 each. So Zazel, when spelled in Hebrew, it equals 45, just like Agael. And then Zazel is also like in Yom Kippur, there's a goat that is like you give all your sins away and put it on this scapegoat, and then they send it off into the wilderness to never come back before God comes and judges the people. And so the people will be judged pure, and they put all the sins on this goat, like a black goat, and they send it out in the wilderness. So that's why one of the cards is the devil card, who wears the goat horns, and he's also Capricorn. And so Saturn, throughout uh, times in history, he's always been symbolized by the bull because it was the god Baal, like Baal, and also Lel, and those are both symbolized by the bull. And then Saturn's also been symbolized by the goat because he rules over Capricorn, and then associated with Zazel, the scapegoat, and they both equal a gematria value of 45 each. And so the two spirits of Saturn, one's good and one's bad. So there's the good one is Agael, and the bad one is Zazel. So that's the one you put all the sins on, and you get him out of God's. When God comes, like get him out of here. So when he doesn't judge us based on you, like you're the scapegoat and you take all our sins. But Agael, he's more like the good one, and so he's like God of agriculture, fertility, abundance, prosperity. It's very beneficial, and even the bull is like connected to ag and agriculture. So it's like so Saturn can be both at the same time. He could be something that you give blessings to, but it could also be sort of like this dark lord or negative influence. Kind of like a real strict parent. Sometimes they're nice and sometimes they're not so nice. But in the big picture, you kind of learn that they weren't so nice or they're hard on you because they're trying to teach you how to be tough or how to, be strong. Then I'm going to show you the tarot grid where there's another seal. So the tarot grid is when you get all the tarot cards that have numbers, like Roman numerals on them, you put them all in a row or in a grid shape from least to greatest value. And you put them all in order. And this acts as another map key, just like the Ten of Pentacles card. And it helps you understand how the tarot works. And it shows you like the Fool's Journey and the Tarot Wheel and other secrets as well. All right, the tarot grid has all the numbered cards. So the tetragrammaton is how the suits are aligned, and it's like the YHVH of God's name. So it goes like wands, cups, swords, and then pentacles, and then we start the major arcana after the minor arcana. And below on the left side, I have the Fool, but really the Fool can go anywhere, or it can go at the very beginning above the Ace of Wands, or at the very end after the World card. But I just put the Fool there because it kind of just fit nice. But really, it could be in the very top left, like it's about to start that journey. So when you have the cards all in order from least to greatest value, then from here you follow the numbers as I have like a pattern. So it starts at the middle card at the very top, which would be the Six of Wands, and then you take that six and you start making that Seal of Saturn. So like the 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 down to the Empress, and do the same thing from the other side, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the Wheel card. And then the middle card on the bottom is the Devil, the 15. So it's like 6, like 1 and 5. And then you go down to the 5, 4, 3, 2, and the same thing on the opposite side. And then you have two Bs overlapping each other. And then you just draw a line right in the middle, which is separate the grid right in half. And then this forms the Seal of Saturn. And I'll show you that picture. Now, Seal of Saturn. You see, so it's like the 6 of Wands, then the 5 of Cups, 4 of Swords, 3, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the same thing with a line that goes right in the middle. And that line, it separates, it like kind of goes right above the top of the Pentacles. And the Pentacles is the suit where it has that 10 of Pentacles card right there on the far right. If you can see. And so that 10 of Pentacles is a tree of life. And if you were just to kind of rotate it, and then you go up right through that diamond, which is like that third eye. And then you follow like in between the 10 of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles. And inside the Kabbalah tree of life, there's a lightning bolt that goes down the tree from each pentacle or sephira. And then we just recreate that, and we do this zigzag lightning bolt shape right in the middle of the Seal of Saturn's eye. And it connects to these 10 cards that are now a step-by-step meditation that you can follow so you can help manifest your wishes and desires quickly. And you bypass that timing restrictions that Saturn holds, because it's right in the middle of that seal and helps you tap into the third eye and draw down desires. And then, remember how I showed you the 10 of Pentacles? When you add up all the pentacles together, it's 45. The same thing happens here. Add up just the points. So the 6, the 2 of High Priestess, the 10, like Wheel of Fortune, and then the 10 of Cups. So like 10, 10, 6, 2, 2, plus the 15, because the devil's number 15. You add up all those numbers at the points, and you goes 45. And then that's lets you know that it's real and it matches up with all the other 45s. And also the same seal that's on the 10 of Pentacles. Because the 10 of Pentacles is a map key of how to read the minor arcana. And then this is also a map key of learning how to read all the tarot cards. And just kind of knowing the order and how the order of the Fool journeys through. And then there's that lightning bolt that goes up that. So there's a Tower card that has a lightning bolt. Kind of, so it shows you. See how the Tower card has a lightning bolt? And so that same lightning bolt, it's called the Zim Zoom lightning bolt. It goes right through the tree of life. And how it zigzags from the 1 to the 2 to the 3 to the 4 to the 5, through the 6 to the 7, all the way down to the 10. And that lightning bolt is like when you have that spark, that huge desire, that desire for desire. And you go, this is a great idea. I gotta make this happen. And then you start putting in the work to do it. But this gives you like that willpower, that lust for life, that purpose, that real big desire. And just to kind of add on to this whole thing, the Tower card is another card that has a tree of life in it. But the tree of life is all falling to pieces. Just because at the top of because the tower is like your spiritual tower, just like the tree of life is like the map of the soul and your spiritual tower, and goes up and down your Kundalini like chakra system, and also your spinal cord. That's also like your spiritual tower. And so this is like everything's falling down, and then you have to learn to kind of pick up the pieces and bounce back. And when you bounce back, you build up yourself stronger. That's the kind of card. But if you add up like all the pieces to this card, like the crown is the first sphere, so 1, and the 15 or the 16, you add up that Roman numeral, and these are like all the clues that you would use to learn how to read every tarot card. So this is like all the pieces and all the clues are falling down. And this is even like the W, which is the Hebrew letter Vav, or Wa, as we American by a 6. And Vav is like this connecting point that brings down heaven to earth. Kind of like what happens when you get that lightning bolt through you. You're connecting heaven with earth and you draw it down. And then there's 22 of these fiery flames, just like there's 22 pathways on the Kabbalah tree of life. And then Adam and Eve represents the 2 like pillars of the tree. But they're on opposite sides because the left side's female, the right side's male, but then they're on opposite sides. So it just shows how they're off balance. Everything's off balance, everything's falling. But when they bounce back, they'll all get appropriate and in the right way. But you count all the Hebrew letter yods, which is 22, plus the crown, plus the Roman numeral, plus the Vav, and it all equals 45. It's cool. And it gets you closer to God and back to that third eye consciousness again. So like it's the path of the flaming sword, and how the sword goes down from the head or third eye into your hands. And that's good to remember. From your eye, like when your third eye envisions your desire, and then you create it and manifest it with the hands in your work, in your actions. And you always have to earn it. So it's a lightning flash, descent and manifestation. All creation begins as an emanation from the divine mind. From subtle to dense, the tree unfolds and spirit descends into matter. One more thing too I want to show you. These 3 cards. Before I show you the other stuff, I want to get back to this real quick. But the 3 cards, how they have the Seals of Saturn. So I went over the 10 of Pentacles one, but the other ones, it's the Devil card is the Saturn card, and it's also assigned to the Hebrew letter Ayin, which means eye, and it also means to see. And it relates to the third eye. That's why the devil has a pentagram over his third eye. And so to find out the seal, you put the line from the third eye and you connect it to Adam and Eve characters to their third eye because they just got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, thrown into the real world, but they ate the forbidden fruit. And it said once they eat the forbidden fruit, their eyes will be open and they'll be just like the gods. So now their eyes are open. And now they can like envision what their desire is and then create something out of nothing just like a god. And so they create it with their own hands. And so you connect the devil's hands for the other V. So it has the hand, his right hand, it has the bat hand, and then he has his chicken feet. Because the chicken feet are like the chicken hands. So it's the hands. And then a line goes straight over the knees, which are like straight line. And then that's how you find the devil's hands. Or the hands and the ayin. So hands and eyes get connected. And then the Hierophant is another card that's very similar way. See how the on the crown of the Hierophant, it's like the triple crown the Pope wears. Even Hermes Trismegistus wears it because he's thrice great. But on this Pope's hat, you'll see a Hebrew letter W, which is just like that W from the lightning bolt of the Tower card. And it's interchangeable with the Hebrew letter Vav. And then also the Hebrew letter assigned to the Hierophant card is Vav. And Vav means nail and tent peg. And it's like something that connects or binds two things together permanently. So he's like really connecting heaven with earth. Even this is the Taurus card, and Taurus is all about living a life of luxury. Like I want the good stuff, you know, I want to do the fancy restaurants, the fancy cars, the good clothes. I want to do first class and good hotel, you know, that kind of stuff. And so you, when you want like a life of more and luxury, you always have to like sacrifice a little bit of yourself. And you go to the Hierophant, and he teaches you how you do it yourself, or he provides it for you. Might even give you a loan, you know. And so it's all about that connecting heaven with earth and having that heaven vibe in your life today. So he has that Hebrew letter Wa or Vav, because Vav is like if you're Ashkenazi Jewish, and then the Wa is more like more Arabic Jewish. It's like Wa, the same meaning. And then you'll connect the Vav connecting point. He actually connects to his crown chakra, where your third eye is close to, because the devil will be like third eye chakra, Saturn. But then this connects to more like the crown chakra, but it's both in your head. And that's where you envision your desires. And then you bring them down with your hands. And so these guys at the bottom of the Hierophant card are wearing yellow yods, like the Hebrew letter yod. And yod relates to the hand. And so it's the Vav connecting to the yods. And then at the very bottom, you have the Hierophant's keys, because the Hierophant's also the first pope, St. Peter. And Jesus gave St. Peter the keys to the kingdom when he left into heaven. And so these two keys form a V and it becomes like a Vav. And then the Vavs go up to the Hierophant's hands. So hands to the connecting points. So the Vavs are the connecting heaven with earth, just like the devil card, Ayin's eyes, like your third eye. That's how you connect the heaven and bring it down to earth. And you do it with your hands. And then just to reiterate, there's the devil card is the scapegoat or Capricorn goat, and which is a major symbol of Saturn. And then the Hierophant is Taurus, which is the bull, and the bull is the other symbol for Saturn, like in Ball and L. And then if you want to go even further into it, just to make sure that you got the right cards, you put a mirror up to those three cards, and it reveals an all-seeing eye. Oh yeah, so just one more time too, like when you see these the eyes, we all have three eyes. We got our right eye, which would be the one that sees the good, just like the Kabbalah tree of life. The right side's the good pillar, the positive, and it coincides with the Taurus Hierophant card because the Hierophant connects the Agael, the beneficial spirit of Saturn, so it sees the good, and then the devil would be the bad, like Azel or Azazel, Zazel, and he's the bad. So the left eye sees the bad, and the left eye is the left side of the tree of life, which is the negative. And then there's the Ten of Pentacles connects to the third eye, and the third eye sees the spirit of all things, and it really sees the truth about what's going on behind the scenes, or really fills out the vibe, you know, or can read between the lines, kind of thing. When you put a mirror horizontally over the devil's knees, which would go right over that line of the Seal of Saturn. That's that middle line. And so see in the middle, there's an eyeball. And if you rotate it, you can see it better. See how it's an eye? It's pretty obvious. It's pretty cool because the Hebrew letter ayin means eye. And it's like your third eye. And then the Seal of Saturn is about the third eye. And it's an eye. And then the Hierophant has it too. All right, so that's the Hierophant when you put the mirror up horizontal. That would go right across that middle cross because he has 3 crosses on his gown, which connect to the 3 crosses of Calvary or Golgotha where Jesus was sacrificed. He was in the middle of 2 thieves. So you draw a cross right through the Jesus cross. I mean, sorry, a line of the Seal of Saturn right through the Jesus cross. And then you form, it's like right in the middle of the card. And then you see how it has like the oval shape eyeball, and then it has all the lines around it, just like we always see the all-seeing eye with all like the eye of providence with all the rays around it. So there it is there. And then we'll do the 10 of Pentacles next. The 10 of Pentacles, actually, you can see the eye without having to do the mirror, which is kind of cool. But if you did the mirror, it's just more easier to see. So that guy in the middle, where I showed you the hair and his head earlier, had an eyeball right there in the middle. When you do it horizontally, it just makes it look more like an eyeball with an eye where his head is, which is the center of the card, which is the center of the diamond from the Seal of Saturn. I'm going to rotate it again. It looks better this way with the eyeball. So all 3 cards have the eye. And just for fun, I'll show you, when you put the mirror up vertically, they also make certain other shapes, but that's like we're in a whole another lesson. But I'll show you what the 10 of Pentacles card looks like when you have it vertically. All right, 10 of Pentacles card mirrored vertically, which is the mirror going right down the middle of the card, in the middle, vertically. And so it shows how these 2 old men right here are looking at this blue stone. So that the guy who we saw that third eye from in the same card, now he's transformed into like this blue nugget. But that blue nugget is the Philosopher's Stone, known as the pineal gland, which is your third eye. So you have these 2 old men staring into the pineal gland, the third eye. And it would like be right in the middle too, where you would make like a Seal of Saturn with those spheres and that diamond. And so you have like 3 eyes, right? You have the eye that sees the good, eye that sees the bad, and then you have the eye in the middle, the third eye, that looks into the spirit of all things. And these cards always have these seals, and they try to tap you in that third eye consciousness, and it just makes you, pushes you to be like prosperous, abundant, evolve, find your purpose. They're always trying to change the world for the better. And you got to do that by changing the individual. And then you become the example that you want to see in the world. But the cards will push you to do that. And they also act as protection if you just have them on your person or if you have them in your home.